Welcome to the Pocatello Business Podcast, the only Pocatello podcast focused on providing profits for Pocatello people. If you love our town and love small business, you are in the right place. We interview local legends, learn business, and have way too much fun doing it. You're listening to the Pocatello Business Podcast with your friend, host, all-around great guy, and owner of New Clean Commercial Cleaning, Spencer Ward.
All right. Okay, we are with another episode of Pocatello Business Podcast, and we are with Jamie Findlay. Say hello, Jamie.
Hello, everybody.
I'm going to introduce her here. She's got a long rap of what she's accomplished, so you can correct me if I get anything wrong.
As long as you don't share the actual rap sheet.
That's true. That's true. I don't want mine to be published either. So, you've been published in the Chick Critique magazine, the honor issuer, right? In 2014. Okay.
Yeah.
And I should start off saying, yes, she's the CEO of Findlay Photography, creative director. CEO or creative director, right? CEO of Paris Studios and CEO and founder of Evolve. So we'll get into that, but let's continue with the introduction here. She has been published in 2014, and I'm sure more since then, of course.
I'm not the greatest at updating my website. I'm sorry for what you're reading.
No, you're okay. So she's had many published works. She's been in the 20 under 40 in Eastern Idaho. She was nominee for the Rising Tide Society's 20 on the Rising Entrepreneur category. Tens of thousands of applicants, and she was honored to be a finalist. So that's pretty impressive. And that was just recently last year in 2019, correct?
Yep, this is just the fall of 2019.
Very cool. So you are a published editorial wedding and portrait photographer for romantic and adventurous couples worldwide. Along with you're also consulting photographers and own a workshop called Evolve. That's a worldwide organization as well.
It is. Yep.
Cool. Well, did I get anything wrong? Do you need to add anything?
No, that's pretty accurate. So I do.
Okay.
I'm known for doing destination photography. So I travel the world. I do destination weddings and elopements. I do commercial photography, which is like the publications. So I shoot for a lot of magazines all over the world. And then here locally, I do families, seniors, and portraits. So I do still serve. And my favorite award is actually that I've had the, Reader's Choice Award for Pocatello for 5 years straight. So that's pretty much my world accomplishment there, Spencer.
That is cool.
Somebody's going to kick me out of it, I'm sure. I love the local stuff too.
I haven't been in it once, so that tells you something about me. So.
Oh, nobody likes it.
No.
It always amazes me every year. But for as much as I travel, it always makes me feel good that local people still know me and use me enough. So I do still shoot a lot. And then as a byproduct of that, Spencer and you and I were talking about this before we started. I do consulting for photographers, for business owners, which kind of morphed into Evolve, which became this international educational company. And we host live events, online conferences, just a massive community of entrepreneurs. So they've all kind of been stepping stones to different things. And then, of course, the Paris Studios is here local. I was above the art gallery for 5 years. I had a studio there for 5 years, which I called Aldo. And then we participated in the renovation of Paris Studios when that burned down, the Monarch burned down. And so now we've been over there for 2 years, and that is like a safe haven for photographers to go have somewhere to shoot without the overhead of having the expense of a studio.
That's very neat. It's very cool to provide that for up and comers. So, well, cool. Yeah. I like it. And I like we talked before, off air here, most people probably know your name in the community, but they probably kind of just think you're a photographer. They have no idea that you're leading this worldwide movement of photographers and helping them develop their companies and helping them support their families with what they're doing in photography, which has evolved, right?
Yeah, you and I were joking about that. It's like the adage of, what do you do? And do I really get into that long description I just gave you, or do I usually just respond with, I'm a photographer, and you see the pity on their face of like, oh, that's sweet. You're a photographer.
Like we said, you're a photographer. I'm a professional janitor, so whatever. So
yeah, that's all right.
Well, cool. So let's start off maybe a little bit more about, okay, tell us about yourself. So you've already talked about the professional side. Let's maybe introduce your family, maybe some pets, some hobbies. I know you have pets.
We have a few pets. Spencer knows because he bought a dog from us.
That's right.
That's right. So I originally grew up in California, South Central California. My parents divorced when I was a teenager, so I divided my time between Utah and Idaho, or not Idaho, Utah and California. And I met an Idaho boy in college. So that's how we made our way to Pocatello. We have been married 17 years this Friday, together 20 years, which is crazy. I feel like we deserve an award for that in today's day and age. But we have 4 kids from 15 to 5. So we have 3 boys, a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 9-year-old, and then a 5-year-old little girl. So quite the spread there. Like we said, we have a lot of animals. My husband breeds hunting labs. So we have silver labs and charcoal labs, sometimes black labs, sometimes chocolate labs. Usually have about 15 puppies every quarter, 15 to 20 puppies every quarter around here. We also have a husky. We have 2 cats. We have a horse. What else? We got rid of our chickens. So all this stuff, all the animals. It's like a regular farm over here. But it's good. It's a really blessed life. We are pretty dang lucky.
Yeah, well, that's great. And by the way, he is, I don't know if I told you, but he's in hunting school right now, and he's getting trained. Good. So anyways, we'll talk more about that off there. But
okay, yeah.
So you mentioned something, you have children at home. You have a house full. You've got your hands full just being a mom.
Totally. So and I apologize. You can probably hear them running outside my office door periodically throughout our entire podcast.
Well, I locked mine out, and there's a couple doors down. So, but how, for the people out there that currently have children at home, they're looking to start a company and trying to juggle and have that balance game. What advice would you give them?
Oh man, the biggest advice, I think it's changed a little bit with what we're experiencing, and I'm sure this will come out. We've got COVID-19. Sure. Being somebody who works from home all the time, it's really different right now because it's not just me working from home, it's me working from home with 5 extra people in my space. So working from home doesn't exist in the same way it does when everybody has another job outside the house and sports and activities and school. But one of the things I think being a working parent in general is just to give yourself some grace, because you can be as rigid as you possibly can be. You can write out schedules, you can be detailed, but things are always going to go awry. And I have one of those personalities. I like things to stay pretty lined up. And it took me a long time to be able to go with the flow, be all right when things are disrupted, recognize the wonder it is that I can have my daughter walk in the middle of a podcast and sit on my lap and give her a kiss, that a lot of people don't get to experience that all day. So kind of shifting my perspective and being okay with things not going as planned, I think was one of the biggest things. We do try to keep on track of some schedules. We try to outline what the days are like. We try to outline some habits that are consistent for our family. But yeah, grace. I think that's the best word you can give any working at home parent. Give yourself some grace.
Yeah, I agree. Wouldn't you agree also, correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but if someone going from a 9 to 5 to coming home to starting their own thing, I like that you said, you need to give yourself some grace, because a lot of 9 to 5s, you're kind of in a rigid schedule. Okay, you're kind of in a routine, and you get used to that. But part of being an entrepreneur, you do have to be able to juggle things up here while dealing with things down there. It's like this COVID-19 thing. You've got to be able to have that ability to pivot and continue to move and run your business.
Totally.
For those that can, there's somebody that can right now, but
Yeah, I do think that's one of the blessings of owning your own business is with COVID-19, like you're experiencing it. We've had to shut things down. We've had to close, we've
Yeah.
had to cut massive amounts from our budget for the year. But I can still continue to work and create progress because I have worked from home. My team is remote. Um, so yeah, it's definitely different. And you brought up a good point. 9 to 5, it is hard for a 9 to 5er. I think even more so to try to shift into like having that completely open schedule, having the disrupted flow of the day. It's something you have to learn. And it takes a while. Even now, it still irritates me when I have things mapped out. And you and I have talked about this a few times. All of a sudden, there's a kid sick, and I have to change my schedule. I have to go pick up a child, and your responsibility changes a little bit because you do have that flexibility.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. And that's the thing too, is like, yeah, it's 9 to 5 exists, and that you'd prefer to get your work done in that 9 to 5, but sometimes you're up at midnight or whatever just to get things done so you can stay on schedule. And I always, one of my mentors when I was entering the professional world said, there's profit, what do you call them? I mean, of course I'm missing the words, but there's profitable activities and there's non-profitable activities, and I think a lot of times we can busy ourselves with non-profitable activities when we should be focusing on the profitable. And that's the things that keep me up. I probably you too, in the late hours in the evening, just to get things done, because it's going to continue to bring cash flow into your company. So
Totally. And I
yeah,
think everybody calls them something different. I call them MMAs, so money making activities. And
yeah,
it is hard when you don't have some type of like consistent schedule, because I can spend literally all day on a task that should have taken 60 minutes, but it's because I'm working at it in 5-minute increments. So I am up late
yeah,
at night and I am up early and trying to make sure my time is filled with those activities that actually drive revenue versus just busy work. Which is kind of one of the things I had to learn in business was I don't have to do everything. I want to control everything, but I have to be able to decide like what things does Jamie's hands have to touch and what things do they not, because I can fill my time with a lot of busy work that doesn't actually drive revenue.
I agree. I finally, I have a consultant as well, but he had to kick it in my head a little bit that, hey, you've got to get a virtual assistant to take care of this busy work. So I do. I have someone in LA that does all of our scheduling. They schedules 40 plus employees every night, and my operations manager gives her the information, and she does a great job. And I don't have to. That doesn't have to consume my whole train of thought when I'm trying to be more creative or doing those MMAs that we would say. So
Yeah, because
well,
as the
perfect.
visionary, I mean, you are the visionary essentially, Spencer. Anybody who's the CEO
Yeah.
is also the CVO. So like when we start bogging down with the tasks of implementation and task management and systems, we lose the creative drive, which is what creates our company in the first place, which keeps us innovative and keeps us excited. So it is really important.
I agree. I totally agree. I like where this is heading. This is good. Let's pivot a little bit here to same topics, of course, but when did you realize you had that entrepreneur side of yourself?
So my upbringing was different than a lot of people's. I kind of had like a tumultuous home. There was a lot of inconsistency, a lot of responsibility that lay on me. So I had a job when I was 14. So I've always had a large amount of responsibility. I was working to pay for the things I needed. I was taking care of my brothers at home. I was going to school. When I was in college, I was working 3 jobs to stay out of debt, plus going to school, plus doing all these things. So I've always had that drive of just like, you just have to get it done. There's always a solution. There's always a way to figure it out. But it really didn't hit me until, which just sounds really funny, but it was Mary Kay when I had my first son, which was 15 years ago. And I loved the community aspect. I loved the connection of it. I loved being my own boss. As I did that for a few years, I started matching my income at the bank. And so I thought, what in the world am I doing? I love and nobody can tell me what to do. I can control all these things. And that was kind of my first real taste of entrepreneurship, even if it was something that was as small as like a Mary Kay business. And from there, it just opened my mind into the things that I could accomplish. And I did many, many things over 15 years. Some businesses were great, and some were successful, and some were total bombs that I either hated and sold, or just completely tanked myself with lack of knowledge or resources. But I always really loved it. So that was probably the start of it. I would say the consistency and understanding of being a boss, which I think is different than entrepreneurship. When you say, like, you can be an entrepreneur, but then there's a different level when you have to be responsible for other people. That was probably when I started my clothing company. So about 10 years, that was my shift.
Yeah. It's intense. And that's the thing, you're not, every one of your jobs and every one of your creative ideas is not going to be a full-on smashing success. Like you said, you have to deal with failures. You have to be able to get up and keep moving.
You totally do. And I think that's part of the entrepreneurial spirit, is you don't see them as failures. And this is a conversation my husband and I had quite a bit about. One of my businesses was, he was like, you let it go too long and you should have ended it. It was a failure. In my head, it was like, no, I still totally could have made that work. I still believe I could have made it work. But it's because I realized I was lacking resources. I was lacking education in some things. I think there's always a way to figure it out. But for me, each of those things I've done has taught me something that's led me to where I've gotten to the next point. And I still don't think where I'm at today will be my ending point. I think I'll continue to evolve and morph into finding what it is that I really love and what I can create and how I can serve. But when you remove that word fail, and you look at it as, a stepping stone or a growth opportunity, I think it changes your perspective of what you can accomplish. It diminishes some of that feeling of disappointment in yourself.
Yeah, I agree. You actually just answered one of my next questions, which was, where are you now and what are your future goals? Which you want to add to it, you can, but you kind of already answered it, which is perfect. So
okay.
Perfect. Well, what would you give someone advice-wise to someone who's, within our community, looking to start a company? What are some of the pitfalls you tell he or she to watch out for? What would be your advice, your secret sauce to give them?
Oh man, I don't know if there's really a secret sauce. And, it really depends on the type of business that they're trying to start, as far as the research and the foundation that they lay. One of the things that I talk a lot about into the creative community, which is what I end up speaking to a lot here, is the power of community over competition, which sounds so simple. But one of my favorite things is, like, no true community exists with the precipice of competition. And so, you can have somebody who is in your mind's eye that is doing something you want to accomplish, somebody that inspires you, somebody you can look up to, because there's people who are years ahead of you, even a month ahead of you in an industry. If I was going to start a janitorial company, you're years ahead of me. For me to reach out to you and to look to you for support or even as inspiration helps me shorten my life lessons that it's going to take me to get to a point of success. And so I think removing the competition, finding healthy inspiration is one of the things that really helps create a business that lands on strong foundation without the worry of what somebody else is doing, or the FOMO of something I haven't created yet or been able to do successfully yet. So much of it is just mental stamina. And that comes with being okay to look and pay attention, but not being trapped in, your fear of failure based on what somebody else is doing.
I like that. You should never compare yourself to anyone else. But yeah, I like having that mentor, someone you can reach out to help, especially within your industry, to help you avoid some of those pitfalls that we tend to get into when we're first starting.
I mean, I wish I would have known that sooner. I was so hell bent on trying to learn everything by myself and to prove that I could do it by myself, and I didn't need anybody else, and I had the capability. And there were so many people out there that could have helped me cut that timeline in half, that I could have found success if I would have let go of that pride and stopped looking at them as somebody that I was competing with versus somebody who could help support me and buoy me up in those times that I didn't understand it. So I think that's tremendously important. I think the other thing for creatives, especially, and any business owners, is don't walk in with this glass ceiling above your head. I think a lot of creatives go into photography, for example, thinking that they are only ever going to make X amount of dollars. I hear all the time that 6 figures in Pocatello as a photographer is astronomical. Nobody could ever do that. They've walked into situations already just determining what their value is, what their worth is, and that trickles down to everywhere, from the pricing structure to how hard they're working to the type of collaborations they take. So going in with an open mind of just growth and not a limit on yourself, I think helps success as well.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. And then on top of that, you talked about profits and figures and all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of people, one of their pitfalls is not knowing their numbers as they're starting a company. Like that can really hold you over if you're not knowing where exactly your cost of goods sold are or should be, your overhead and profits. Like you've got to make a profit so you can protect and be able to serve your clients the best you can. So, that's one thing I would say is know your numbers when you're starting out.
Sure. Well, it's scary. It's kind of scary to know your numbers. It's a little intimidating.
It is.
Sometimes it's better to like hide and not face the facts of like, it's cool. I charge somebody $500. Like you don't really understand your cost of doing business on that $500 you collected, but you kind of live in this like blissful oblivion for a little bit. But I do think that's one of the reasons people go out of business so quickly. Sure. I think the ratio of small businesses is because of the lack of those foundational systems. They don't have their numbers in play. They don't understand their systems for marketing. They don't understand how to pivot, how to evolve. They've kind of just like jumped in and then rolled with the momentum, and it only got them so far. And then they realize there's no foundation holding them up, and numbers is definitely a big part of that.
Yeah. So if you don't like numbers, get yourself a good bookkeeper. You can get a virtual bookkeeper, which I do, which I have, and she's in Phoenix as well. She's brilliant. Oh, and I have another accountant on top of that. Find smart people to work for you, because they can make that part can just make you or break you. So have someone that can give you the hard news when you need to hear it, and put you back on track when you need to. So.
Yeah, I actually heard somebody give really good advice of like, one of the things that we're always trying to do is be better at the things we're bad at. But as a business owner, a lot of times we're wasting our time trying to be better at things we're bad at when there's other people who can just outsource that. And so if you don't like numbers, there's, like Spencer said, there's plenty of people who can do your bookkeeping. I do think you should be responsible enough to ask to see the numbers and understand the basics of what it is so that you can have the conversation. Don't live in denial. But yeah, you don't have to be good at it. There's always somebody else who can be better at it than you. I'm a big believer. Surround me with everybody who's better than me. Literally put me in a room with anybody and everybody who's better than me, because that's going to help me level up. It's going to help take things off my plate. It's going to help me scale faster. I never want to be the smartest person in the room. So
yeah. And that's something I don't have to worry about, because I'm never the smartest person in the room. So
I doubt that. You are pretty dang smart.
But I like that though. Yeah, even though you're having someone else do your numbers, yes, keep your eye on the numbers. Make sure you're running a monthly P&L. Look at your balance sheet. Make sure those things are averaging out the right ways. So, okay, we're finishing up here, but I want, since it's the COVID-19 edition, sadly. What I'm going to ask you an off the wall question, but it's going to help drive our community a little bit more in the restaurants. What is your to-go order, your favorite to-go order at one of our local hometown restaurants?
Oh man, to-go order. I'm really missing right now my to-go orders. Our family go-to is usually Fuji. Like we'll eat there live, but we also love to order out, like their hibachi steak and rice and the pad thai every time. That's like, it comes out the door. We love it.
My boys love it because they bring that little boy down and it makes them pee on them, and they just think it's the best thing in the world. So good selection there. So well,
totally.
Jamie, before I go, did I miss anything I should ask you? Because I'm sure we'll have you on again, but did I miss anything I should have asked you but I didn't?
No, I think that all the things you asked were wonderful, and I'm happy to come on again. You didn't ask me what other profession I'd like to attempt, which was one of your questions. So I am a little offended.
Well, please, we have a few moments here. Tell me what your other profession, because it's always a good one.
I actually laughed when I saw that, because I thought, you know what, it's dang good that I have the profession I have, because I have one of those ADD personalities that if I find anything that I'm even slightly interested in, I become obsessive to the point where I have to be the best at it. So it really doesn't matter. If I always thought I would work in magazines, but the other off the wall thing that I kind of like in a never a million years would do at this point, but I love driving cars really fast. Like, I kind of think like being a race car driver could be something I would really enjoy.
That's something you and I have in common. I love that too. So very good.
I have plenty of speeding tickets to prove that that is an accurate statement.
Okay, well, all the policemen that are watching, please just mute that out of your ears. You know, she's a safe, reliable driver.
Yeah, Spencer, tell them your driver's license number. That's what they should be looking for, not mine.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Okay, so Jamie, where do people find you if they're looking for you as a photographer? As if they are a photographer and they're looking for more guidance, how do they find you?
Yeah, so if they want to talk about photography, it's Jamie Findlay Photography on every platform. So you can find it on Facebook under that. You can find it on Instagram under that. Also, my website is that. Evolve is my workshop company, which is Evolve Workshops on Instagram, evolveworkshops.org on web, and then Evolve Workshops on Facebook. So it's all pretty easy to find. If you like to just follow like life and you want to see the chaos of a working mom, it's the Landlocked Mermaid on Instagram. So that's a little more behind the scenes, a little more of who I am outside of the business world.
Perfect. Well, thank you. And thank you guys for joining us in this episode of Pocatello Business Podcast with Jamie Findlay, and look her up. So thank you very much, and we'll see you later.
Thanks, guys.
Congratulations on spending a couple minutes getting just a little bit smarter, having some fun, and supporting the Pocatello business community. If you are feeling the love, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you are.